tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
It's heartbreaking to see that so many people need support, assistance to feed their family.
More money to help banks help British Columbians, says the organization sees more demand than ever before.
This project has the ability to transform lives.
A major Indigenous-run housing project moves forward, while some concerns First Nations are and questioning the ability to tell the truth on prosecutors go after BC-born frontman James Hogart at a sexual assault trial.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Anita Bathe. A major Indigenous-run housing development project is one step closer to reality tonight. It promises to bring 6,000 new rental units to the lands just south of the Burrard Street Bridge. While nearby residents have concerns about the project, as the CBC is about us, Indigenous leaders say the project is important in reconciliation.
The Squamish Nation is moving forward. 10.5 acres of reserve land surrounding much of the south end of Burrard Bridge transformed into 11 housing towers, providing 6,000 rental homes. Today, the project took a small step, a service agreement signed between the First Nation and the City of Vancouver.
An ambitious residential and commercial development project that would make us more visible on the lands again and physically bring us back home.
In 1913, the BC government forced the Squamish people to abandon their homes in the area so that Vancouver could expand. Residents had to pack up and head to the North Shore on this barge. While details of today's agreement have yet to be shared publicly, officials say it covers the installation of services such as water, sewer, and electricity. The Squamish Nation believes once built, the project could generate billions.
This project has the ability to transform lives, to improve the quality of life for so many of our Squamish people as a result of the development. That we as a nation are entering a new era in terms of reclaiming our destiny.
But the project has come with some pushback. The Kids Point Residents Association this week shared a list of concerns, including density, the height of the 11 towers, and the 10,000 people possibly moving in. Signs posted on several properties in the neighborhood also expressing opposition to a possible road being built through Vanier Park as part of the development, and perhaps above all, anger that the city has not consulted with residents.
There's a lot of things that need to be considered, and certainly the density is just outlandish.
We weren't consulted when we were removed from our territory.
This Squamish Nation member, who is a cultural advisor on other development projects, says while he welcomes educational engagement with residents, consultation is not a requirement here.
Residents, wanting their needs to be met, well, those zoning requirements don't apply here.
Squamish Nation says some designs have yet to be finalized and more funding needs to be secured. Still, they say construction in some capacity is scheduled to begin this summer. Isabel Regam, CBC News, Vancouver.
Meanwhile, Vancouver City Council has approved another First Nation-owned development project, this one near the Cambie Street corridor. The Heatherlands project has been in the works since 2018. It will see 21 acres of land, including the old RCMP Fairmont Academy, transformed into several buildings, ranging in height from 3 to 24 stories. The plan promises to deliver 2,600 homes, the majority of which will be strata. The Heatherlands are owned by Canada Lands Company, as well as the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. After much backlash and criticism, the province has shared the business case for a new Royal BC Museum, which is projected to cost $789 million. The documents reveal what went into the government's decision-making process. Still, as Mira Baines reports, some say key information is missing.
More questions are being raised over whether the business case supports a new Royal BC Museum. The BC government released a redacted version.
That extensive analysis confirmed that the cost to repair or upgrade the museum's buildings would exceed the cost to replace them with a new, modern facility.
She says the old museum would need significant seismic upgrades and is built with hazardous materials. The government released photos of some of the problems with the museum, including incidents of flooding, deteriorating parts of a wall, and areas where the museum has run out of room. In the release of the business case, government officials outlined options that were explored earlier, including keeping the museum as is, replacing it on a new site, replacing it on the existing site, and revitalizing it and repairing it. Mark faced questions over why schools in dire need of seismic upgrading haven't been given priority over the museum.
We've doubled our numbers and investment on seismic upgrading schools. Of course, I care about children and protecting children. We're also investing in more hospitals. 17 projects are underway across this province. We've got an aggressive capital investment across this province because we know that we have a duty to protect our public assets.
Opposition critic for finance, Liberal MLA Peter Millibar, points out not all of the details have been released.
But the most troubling part is a third of the report has been redacted for the public not to look at important things like risk assessment and value for money.
But that's not the only concern. BC Green MLA Adam Olsen, a member of the Sartlip First Nation, says the government needs to return items to Indigenous people, not house them.
The reality is there's thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of items that don't need a building to be constructed in order for it to be repatriated. What it needs is a museum that understands and respects Indigenous people and has a commitment to repatriation.
Mark says the province will be looking to the federal government and private donors for help with costs. However, the public backlash has been growing since the project was announced almost 2 weeks ago. So far, it seems unlikely if the release of some of the details behind the decision will result in an upswing of support for it. Mira Baines, CBC News, Victoria.
Rising costs on grocery store shelves means BC Food Bank demand is higher than ever. The amount of food given out by one of the province's largest food banks has nearly doubled in the last 3 years. And now, as John Hernandez reports, Ottawa has pledged more funding to get food to people who need it most.
It's a steady day at this pop-up food bank inside SFU where students like Dominic Constantine can get fresh food without the worry of the bill.
It's important for me to always just be cognizant of savings and being able to find fresh produce and foods that just sustenance that can just keep me going.
Students living, balancing work and school, you can only work so much, you can only afford so little.
These foods were supplied by the Greater Vancouver Food Bank, where demand is higher than ever. Rising inflation rates have put healthy foods increasingly out of reach for those on a fixed budget.
People that are having a tough time, they can afford the cheap noodles, they can afford those instant noodles, high sodium. That's not what we want to give out. We want to give out the food that people can't afford, which is the milk, the cheese, the yogurt, fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, nutrition.
The food bank is on pace for a record year, distributing about 8 million pounds of food, nearly double the output of just a few years ago. Federal leaders visited the site on Wednesday, where they doubled down on past promises to build up food security across the province, including millions in funding to help more food centers install items like fridges and freezers.
To witness the fact that this food is being distributed to so many agencies, local organizations, it is something we need to do.
Ottawa says millions of dollars will also soon be available for remote and northern communities to apply for to build up food infrastructure.
There's no shortage of food, there's a distribution problem. And we have so much food in Canada that we need to be able to get it to people that need it in remote areas, remote access.
Enough food to go around that's getting harder and harder to afford. John Hernandez, CBC News, Burnaby.
And transit ridership across Metro Vancouver took a big dive during the pandemic, but now Translink is reporting that bus ridership is recovering faster than all other modes of transit. It bounced back to 62% of pre-pandemic levels by the end of last year. The new report shows Translink's ridership recovery was stronger than most transit systems in North America. Last year, there were 224 million boardings on Metro Vancouver's transit system. The Canadian housing market is cooling off. With interest rates rising, the number of home sales and home prices are falling. As Nisha Patel reports, it's a change that comes too late for one couple from Vancouver who are swept up in the housing frenzy.
A move from Vancouver to Sudbury, Ontario, in order to land a cozy dream home. Or so they thought. Swept up in Canada's housing frenzy back in March, Joshua Keys and his partner bought the house virtually with no inspection.
We felt pressure. We felt like this could be our last chance. So we just said, okay, let's go for it.
When they took possession, the photos didn't match reality. Junk everywhere, water damage, and structural issues. As if that weren't enough, it might also be losing value.
Now it seems like, yes, the prices are going down again a little bit, and we might be stuck.
Many Canadians may be feeling buyer's remorse. Thanks to higher interest rates the past couple of months, sales have slipped in 80% of housing markets. Some economists predict prices will fall 10 to 20% this year.
It wouldn't surprise me if we actually see the fastest transition from a seller's market to a buyer's market.
Ontario realtor Daniel Foch says the power between sellers and buyers is shifting.
Start exercising those rights that a buyer's market gives you, the right to inspect a property, the right to include a financing condition.
Experts also caution that in a cooling market, overbidding can be especially risky, as banks may appraise the home at a lower price than expected.
What it puts a home buyer on the hook for in terms of an appraisal coming in low is that the home buyer would be responsible to cover the additional costs.
A reminder that in a market that's quickly changing, it's best to be prepared.
Really make sure you do your due diligence, or else people will take advantage of your ignorance.
It could help avoid costly mistakes for what is most often the biggest purchase of a lifetime. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
At the sex assault trial for Headley frontman Jacob Hogart today, Crown prosecutors questioned the BC man's ability to tell the truth. The Surrey-born singer is accused of 2 counts of sexual assault and 1 count of sexual interference, stemming from 2 encounters in 2016. One of his accusers was just 16 at the time of the alleged incident. As the CBC's Eli Glasner tells us, Hogart denies the charges, but has admitted having sex with both women.
As the cross-examination of Jacob Hogart continued, the Crown focused on whether Hogart should be trusted. The former singer from the rock band Headley has pled not guilty to sexual assault charges concerning 2 women. He testified about the details of his rock and roll lifestyle, the easy hookups and casual affairs wherever the band played. Hogart admitted to lying to both of the accusers, telling one of them he loved her, lying to get them out of the hotel room on separate occasions. He admitted to deleting text messages from his phone, hiding women's phone numbers under men's names, and lying about the affairs to the woman who would become his wife. The Crown asked how the jury can believe him when he says the women in question consented, adding, "Are you lying now and saying they consented to get out of another difficult situation?" Hogart replied, "I'm only telling the truth right now." Hogart remained on the stand as the defense was given the chance to re-examine him. Hogart's lawyer asked if he'd ever testified under oath before. Hogart said he knew it was a crime to lie, adding, "To be honest, I've lied in the past to get out of uncomfortable situations and to cheat on my girlfriend and hope she doesn't find out, and I'm not proud of it. But this is a whole different ballgame." Hogart's lawyer also brought up the issue of consent, with again Hogart insisting he knew the women consented from a combination of verbal language and body language.
Today, the jury also heard from a limo driver who picked up the 16-year-old accuser and drove her home from the Toronto hotel, and who remembers her being quiet on that ride home. Closing arguments to the jury are scheduled to begin this Friday. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, they're a loud and noisy part of summers across BC, but now one municipality has voted to ban gas-powered leaf blowers. Councillors in Oak Bay want to ban all gas-powered residential lawn equipment by 2026. A petition outlining concerns over noise and pollutants was signed by more than 600 people in the community. Oak Bay had already planned to phase out the district fleet's gas-powered gardening equipment.
Well, I think we're all in a shared path of trying to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, noise pollution, etc. We're leading the way a bit on this, so I think will be a little bit of a learning case for other jurisdictions as they're going forward. And things that we'll get out of this next step will probably help inform the whole region and probably the province.
Council is now exploring subsidizing residents' transition from gas-powered gardening equipment to electric. A night of horror followed by a day of profound grief as we learn the names of those killed in a horrific mass shooting at an elementary school. The latest from Uvalde, Texas, next. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. The University of Manitoba recently celebrated the achievements of Indigenous students. Hundreds attended the university's first in-person graduation powwow since 2019, where more than 400 graduates were honored.
Yeah, we are here to honor our graduates from our certificate programs, our diploma programs. We have a civil engineer student. We have many students. I think we have 170 registered today. So we're here for our students to honor them. It's memories. Today they have their families here with them, their friends.
Today I am completing my diploma program in community development here in the Indigenous School of Education at Red River College Polytechnic. As a Métis woman, I really hope to work for my nation and bring any skills that I've learned here back to my community, and really just ensuring we have a strong economic future and economic prosperity for all.
Getting together is so important for our communities. In a powwow setting, it is a ceremony, and we're here with dancers, drummers, community members. We have our leadership at the college. We have our staff from all over the college. We have all kinds of diverse people here today, and we're being inclusive, and people are here, so I think it's really important for reconciliation.
Being back with Indigenous people in an Indigenous celebration is so honoring to me. It's been really, really long. I've really missed it. I feel like a lot of people needed to be able to come together. And there's no better time than a graduation to have a celebration like such. To me, I think it's really important. I think it shows that during the pandemic, we've really missed having a gathering place and having somewhere to come together. And I think that for the turnout we're seeing today, it just also shows that there's a lot of Indigenous excellence within these institutions, and we're really here to honor and celebrate them. As valedictorian, I think it's really exciting that I'm being able to give the address to the graduating class. And I think it's just an amazing opportunity to be back after COVID.
Today is big and huge, but that's because we haven't been together for 3 years. So it's a great time to celebrate for sure.
Today, the shock, grief, and outrage is stronger than ever. We have new details of how the gunman barged into a Texas elementary school classroom and killed 19 kids and 2 teachers. All of the victims have been identified. Now, Texas's governor is calling on his state and his country to stand with the community.
Texans must come together and support the families who have been affected by this horrific tragedy. What they need now more than ever is our love. What they need is uplifting from all of our fellow Texans and all of our fellow Americans.
Abbott referred to the 18-year-old shooter as evil and demented. Yesterday morning, he shot his grandmother in the face. She survived and called police and remains in hospital. The shooter then drove to the school, barricading himself inside a classroom where he shot most of his victims. He was killed by law enforcement at the scene. The governor says the only warning of the attack came moments before it happened in a Facebook post. Katie Simpson brings us the perspective of the families who have lost so much.
Familiar signs of mourning for a familiar American grief. Uvalde is the kind of town where most everyone knows each other. No one here is without connection to this pain.
It's not right that we as parents should be afraid to send our kids to school. It's not right to be afraid to, go to the grocery store, scared that something might happen.
The heroic last acts of the innocent come to life. The two teachers who died trying to protect their students. There's 10-year-old Uzziah Garcia, described by family as the sweetest little boy. Jose Flores Jr. was also 10. He loved video games and baseball. Lexi Rubio played sports too, proudly showing off this basketball trophy. Her distraught family pleads for an end to gun violence.
Someone wanted to take her life. All we can hope is that she's just not a number. Hopefully something gets resolved. That's all we ask. Hopefully something gets resolved.
Feeling the need to do something, people waited for hours to donate blood.
We just wanted to make sure that we could do something because it's just so close to home and it hits all of us.
So many showed up. Volunteers had to turn some away.
I am a retired, I'm a retired school district administrator, and I taught for 29 years. And so this is very dear to me, and I was just torn yesterday and today, and anything I could do to help, I wanted to.
The long journey toward healing, if that can ever happen, is just beginning. A community coming together to find some comfort in their shared pain.
That's the CBC's Katie Simpson in Uvalde, Texas tonight. And there's much more on that situation in Texas. More details coming up tonight on The National. And on our program, we have more news coming up as well. That's right after the break.
It's an innovative way of solving a growing problem in Vancouver: crime on the streets and in the homes of the city's Chinese population. This unassuming office is home to the brand new Chinatown Police Community Services Center. It's a mouthful, a big name for an office with a big job ahead of it. Vancouver police have had a tough time gaining the trust of recent Chinese immigrants. It's hoped this new office, staffed by civilians and 2 police officers, will provide the community with a comfortable place to report crimes.
No, first of all, you've got to get people to have confidence in the police. And as you know, in the Chinese culture, certainly the first generation does not have that confidence. In Hong Kong, they not necessarily have the confidence in the police. We need to build those bridges to get that. And that's what this is an attempt to do.
We are staffed by civilians, and it's less intimidating for the public to come to a center to talk to civilians than going directly to the police department. Secondly, I would think the language barrier can be overcome with our staff who can speak Cantonese, Mandarin, Vietnamese, and English as well.
Do it in both languages, Bill. Okay, ready?
1, 2, 3.
It's a big day for Chinatown, the opening of an office that at least provides the community with some hope. The hope that now, finally, police have an ear to the ground here. And they'll be listening closely as they deal with gangs and a new phenomenon, home invasions.
We have to make sure that people realize that Vancouver and British Columbia is different. You can work with the police when it comes to extortion, when it comes to armed robbery, when it comes to intimidation of you and your family, that people are apprehended here, they are convicted, and they do go to jail for a long time.
Police hope the opening of this office will send a clear message to Vancouver's criminal element, that police are now closer to the community than ever before. Chris Edwards, CBC News, Vancouver.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
Join CBC Vancouver's Johanna Wagstaffe on June 7th at Fires and Floods, a free online UBC webinar about the impacts of forestry practices on climate change. Register today at forestry.ubc.ca. And May is Asian Heritage Month, and we're sharing the stories of amazing Asian Canadians in the community. Learn more and get inspired at cbc.ca/BC Community.
People living around the Fraser River in the valley are being warned about potential flooding. The worry stems from the snowpack that has yet to melt because of cooler than normal conditions. The Fraser Valley Regional District says flooding is a risk every spring when snowmelt and rainfall flow into the Fraser and other bodies of water. But November's flooding brought more debris and sediment into the river, potentially destabilizing the waterways and increasing the flood hazard.
Don't want to see that hot weather just switch overnight, and we certainly don't want to see large precipitation events. Hopefully we get a cool, steady, prolonged spring, and the melt has a chance to spread out over some weeks and months.
The district says residents should have emergency preparedness kits on hand and know which communication channels to monitor. More information is available on the Fraser Valley Regional District website. Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe is here now. And you know, Joe, he talked about that prolonged cool weather, but we do have some warmer weather ahead. So how concerning is this?
Yes, we're starting to see signs, Anita, of the first big warm up, and it has been a delayed start to that melt. So far, kind of temperatures and conditions we've been seeing really advantageous to a slow snowpack melt. But we know in that region, we're talking snowpack 2 to 3 times what's normal for this time of the year. So I want to show you the warm up that I am watching over the next couple of days. We're going to see temperatures drop a little bit. And I think these numbers are actually underplaying a little bit. This is straight model data. I want to take you through to early next week. So we're going to fast forward in the forecast for a moment. Check out Tuesday into Wednesday. That's the first time I see temperatures into the mid-20s for parts of the South Coast, which could translate to melt at alpine levels. Now, this doesn't look like a sustained heat wave, but it's, again, the first time I see a chance of some more rapid melts. We'll be following that closely. Again, that's almost a full week into the forecast, and we should have a good 5 days before we do get into one of these rapid melt situations. But we are still looking to see that snowpack melt for the first time this year, really. The next system coming in from the southwest really won't get to the south coast until tomorrow evening. I know we saw that drizzle and mist this morning. That low is hopping across the mountains. For the most part, we were in a break between systems today, even seeing some sunny breaks. The next one, though, spreading showers late afternoon, early evening for Metro Vancouver. And that will make its way across to the interior, but most of that will time out that it's a Thursday overnight story for the interior. And for Vancouver, most of our rain, again, will fall Thursday overnight into Friday. 23 tomorrow in through Kelowna, 19 out towards Cranbrook. Seen a few showers in through Prince George, Fort St. John as well, but I do think we'll see some sunny breaks. And Prince Rupert, don't be surprised if you see some sunny breaks out there as well, highs to 13. So evening showers, it's a mainly cloudy Thursday. Showers lingering to Friday morning, Friday afternoon sunshine. And at this point, Saturday looks more showery than Sunday. I do think we'll see some good sunny breaks over the weekend. And then, Anita, we get into that warm up. We really haven't had a lot of above seasonal temperatures this season, so I will keep you posted. All sides of the weather coin on the table with this one.
All right. Thanks, Johanna.
You're welcome.
And that's it for our show tonight. Thank you so much for watching CBC Vancouver News. A reminder that during hockey playoffs, we aren't always on television, but we are online at 6 p.m. every weeknight, YouTube, Facebook, and CBC Gem. Have a great night.